Hi guys, I want to talk about something extremely important. We're blessed, and you build it, that our sales are largely a system. And we have worked very hard, and it was done well before I even came on board, to work hard to set it up where it's a systematic sale. The beauty of a systematic sale is you get as close as you can to a product that has to be sold and turn it into retail. The quirk to that is, I would challenge, as any decent retail corporation would tell you, and granted most of them stink, but as any good one will tell you, is even in retail, there's sales. They call it marketing. But the thing I think they often forget is even their closing. They got to close. Why do you think they run discounts? 25% off. It's a close. It's a call to action. If I walk by and a pair of Levi's are $24.95, but I walk by and there's a sign that's $24.95, I can get them any day. I could use a pair, but next time. But if I walk by and it's $24.95, 20% off, sale ending 2 days from now, oh, well, crap, that's a good value. I better get it. It's a close. The sale's a close. The advertising on the marketing is a close. Season ending, it's a close. Model year clearance event, it's a close. They're trying to close. And what we forget, and what a lot of us have a huge weakness in, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, and I'm not insulting anybody, I'm not hurting anybody's feelings, is we have a lot of bad closers. We have a lot of issues with closing, and we're losing sales. Your first close that you're purposefully directly involved in is getting them in for a presentation. And that's huge. And if you should be running 40%. And that means for every 10 leads you get, you should be running 40%. If you're running less than 20%, you have a huge, huge problem. Pick up the phone, call me immediately, and let's chat. And that's not an insult. That is, you need some help, whether it's from me or somebody else or one of the other people working here or another franchisee for me to put you with. I don't care, but you're losing crazy business. Pick up the phone and let's chat. Now, I want to review for a minute what a lead is, because a lot of folks only want to count a good lead. That's ridiculous. It's moronic. I don't want to have the argument. Somebody that says, "Hey, I'm in first grade. What'd you build it?" is a friggin' lead. Count them. What's your name, Jimmy? Mommy said I can't tell you. Maybe you don't count him. But if he looks like, goes, "I'm Jimmy Wilson. What's your phone number, Jimmy?" 673. Then count him. It's a friggin' lead. A drunk leaving you a message at 2 a.m. "Send me that free information DVD. Well, this is Jim Wilson at 216 Northwest 16th Street. That's a lead. You count it. Doesn't matter he's drunk. Doesn't matter he doesn't have any credit. Doesn't matter he couldn't buy a piece of gum. Count it. Everything's a lead. The person that stops you at the gas station says, "Wow, that's a neat wrap truck. What is you build it?" is a lead. Now, if you tell them a little info and go, "Hey, can I send you some information?" and they go, "No," all right, maybe if you don't want to count them, okay. But sure, here's my business card, 1,010%, that's a lead. Your goal on that end is to get all the leads you can, but I don't care. So that's leads. Now, 40% of those should come in your office, sit down with you, spend up to 2 hours with you of their time, letting you explain in detail what you build is and how you work, and in greater detail what it is they want and hope and dream to achieve, and how these two blend together. That's a presentation. 40% should be coming in. More than 40, and I bow to you. Dead serious. I mean, I bow to you. That's incredible. I got some of you running as high as 60. Mwah, that's amazing, especially if you're counting all your leads. Less than 20, ugh. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Between 30 and 40 is where you should be. Hopefully a little over 40. Now then, likewise, you should be signing 50% of your presentations. 25% being acceptable. Below 25%, then you got to give me a call. We need to chat. Seriously. Again, if you don't want to talk to me, somebody here, one of the franchisees, we need to get you somebody. If you are closing less than 25%, you have a problem. There is some weirdness that comes around. You tend to have a higher closing percentage on the second based on the higher closing percentage on the first. In other words, if you're running 40% presentations, you're very likely going to be a lot closer to 25% closing. If you're running 30% presentations, you're probably going to be a little closer to the 50% closing, and on and through. Ultimately, and this is what matters most, you should be signing 10%. That number holds up to the point a franchisee ought to be able to take it to the bank. Again, 10% of all leads. You got to count the bad ones with the good. There's a reason you only get 40% in. There's a reason you only sign 25, 30, 45% of those contracts, because some of them were garbage. Of the good ones, you won't sign them all because of all the little quirky things, but you got to count them all. The number ultimately, if you don't want to get lost on those small ones, is 10%. You look at any 5, let alone 6-month period time frame, and you should be able to go, how many leads did I have? And I should have signed 1 for every 10. If in a 6-month time frame, come and gone, if you've only been open for 6 months, all right, maybe you need a little pipeline adjustment. But 6-month time frame, if you've had 60 leads, you should have 6 contracts. And if you don't, something is wrong. And I'm going to challenge you, what's wrong is closing. Maybe presentation, maybe this, maybe something else. I'm not doubting that, but I seriously believe the biggest issue is closing. All of that was said in hopes of getting to where you hear me here. Closing's attitude. I can go through other things, I can do other techniques. I've done this a million times. Closing's attitude. And I want to tell you a personal story. And if I've shared this before, I apologize. But it's the day I learned how to close. I knew how to close before. I've learned a lot of things since. Every person is born knowing how to close. A baby crying in its crib to get milk knows how to close. So there's a certain nature. I'm talking about how to close not easy. And I'm going back to fall of 1987 in Portland, Oregon, at a car lot called Courtesy Ford at the corner of 122nd and Stark Street. Feel free to look it up. I'd be fascinated to know if they're still there. I went to work there on like the 18th of the month. Spent the next week and a half training, which means nothing. And then, like on the 28th, 29th, day or two left, I'm out on the floor. Which was where the training actually began. Very aggressive store, very system sell, a lot of great salespeople, a lot of powerful managers, fascinating place. I'd love to be able to see those guys again, but I'm boring you getting lost on nostalgia. I worked my fanny off. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had a pretty good shtick. At the time, I was in decent shape, relatively good-looking kid, had a Texas accent, or Texas, Oklahoma accent, and keep in mind, I'd just come out of Texas, so it was a little more Texas than Oklahoma at the time. Wet behind the ears, but walking around with cowboy boots on and good old boying the heck out of it. I didn't realize that I had a pretty good shtick. Problem was, I was also a good, sweet little Christian kid that had been taught honor and respect people. Salespeople are asses that are always trying to beat you up and push you into things, and treat people with respect, and they'll treat you with respect. So I believed everyone. I believed everyone. Man, I showed them the cars, and we made friends, and we bonded. Heck, they'd buy me a gift sometimes. Let me get you a soda. Oh, it's so great. Oh, I loved it. And hey, we're going to think about it. We're going to pray on it. We're going to go look at another. We'll be back. I will not buy a car without talking to you. I believed them, each and every one. and I didn't sell a damn thing. None. And at first, when I realized this, I'm getting real frustrated because, they're just, and all the guys tell me, buyers are liars, buyers are liars. But I thought about it, but they were good people. They were good people. I mean, And I talked to this one family, and he was a nice enough guy. We bought enough. He goes, Bob, I just got to tell you, I feel terrible. I know I get, because I just cried out. Look, you promised you would talk to me. What's going on? I would have Bob, but on the way home, we saw this Pontiac dealership, and we kind of wanted to look at it just for fun, but we knew we were going to talk to you before we did anything. And, well, man, they just offered us such a good deal. I go, what do you mean? I offered you. He goes, yeah, but I mean, it was a little better than we expected, and they told us it was only good if we did it right then. Pause if you get the story now. It was a close. They'd honored that deal tomorrow. The guy actually wanted to buy. He needed somebody to give him the closing excuse and the reason he had to put the pressure on to get there. And my mind just went, I was, well, thanks, Jim. Send me a client. Well, that's just stupid because somebody's saying they're going to refer people to you. If they loved you enough to refer their friends and family to you, they loved you enough to sign a contract with you. That's just a little side note, but that's one of my pet peeves. So I realized then that they were dead honest with me when they left the store. They turned into liars the second they left. Whole other story there and everything else. I'm going through that to come to this. So I'm coming in. We got 10 days left in the month. I've sold nothing. I'm looking to make a minimum wage. Even more than that, I'm nervous about job. Other guys are all sitting at 6, 7, 8, whatever. And a deal that should have never been sold. 18-year-old kid comes in the door with his buddy looking to buy a truck. And he's starting a lawn business. He's high school dropout, whatever, and he's going to mow lawns. He needs a vehicle to haul his stuff. So I show him around and pitch his whole thing. And this is back when they didn't have prices on the windows, which was an interesting thing. Actually, no, this one did. This is a Ford Ranger, so it did. And the boss writes it out, and I go and pitch to the kid, and I actually get a counter. And I take it back up to the boss, and he writes his response to it and everything. And Lisa goes, okay, you close this one. I go, oh, you betcha, Joe. His name was Joe. He goes, no, you close this one. Yeah, okay, sir. He says, you don't understand. If they walk out the door, you walk after them. I go, I got it. Give it all I have. No, they walk out the door, you follow, you're done. If you don't close this one, you're fired. Now, I cannot emphasize enough what a crappy deal this was and what an incredibly impossible deal it was to do. But I was also a kid that had been playing sports since he was 6. Started wrestling at 5, football and baseball at 6. And what I learned was, you did what they said. If the kid was 20 times your size, super powerful, super strong, super fast, could kill you, and he looks at you and says, that guy gets in my backfield, you die. You lied, cheat, stole, did whatever you had to, you stopped him. There wasn't a why I can't. There wasn't a oh but. There wasn't excuses. You did. I've been taught that my whole life. And if you didn't, I guarantee my coaches at least made sure it hurt a lot worse the next day than it ever would have to have done the job. Never occurred to me to disobey. The owner said do. I got 2 things eating the subconscious in my mind. Number 1, I don't want to lose a job. And number 2, I don't fail. I closed the kid. I got on the phone, called his dad, made his dad leave work, come down to the office, agree to the deal, sign the loan papers, because I had no choice. Every time he was, oh, but, or well, whatever, or God dang it, I can't believe you're calling me, I'm friggin' work, which literally was a conversation. I didn't think about it. I didn't debate it. I didn't have a choice. Metaphorically speaking, my children were going to die. There was not an option here. Failure couldn't exist. Had to. I don't know what I did or how I did it, but I did it. I'll leave the rest of the story alone, but it was a very profitable deal. Here's the intriguing part. 10 days left to go. Some of the best salespeople I've ever known in my life. By the end of that month, I'd done the highest profit deal in the history of the store and the third highest profit deal in the history of the store. I made Salesman of the Month that month. Because a man said, close it or die. I watched a number of businesses fail, family and friends. Sometimes nothing you could do. More often than not, because in their mind, they knew why they couldn't succeed. You can't go knock on doors and say, give me business, because you just can't. You can't go stand on the street corner and wave a sign because you just can't. So they sit there and starved to death and died. You don't have an option. This is what I want you to learn from closing. This is today. This is huge. Close them or your wife dies. Close them or your children starve. Close them or you fail. Close. You got to close. It's not an option. You gotta. You gotta. It's 4th and 67. The ball's on your own 13. There's 1 second left on the clock. Don't tell me why a Hail Mary doesn't work. You make it work. You are the receiver. By God, you're faster than anybody that's ever lived, and you will catch it. You're the quarterback. You're dropping back, and you're putting it spot on where that guy's going to be. You're the lineman. You kill everybody. You do because you do. You do because you have to. You have to close. This isn't a retail option. Don't tell them how neat you are and how pretty and wait for them to show back up and say, yes, I'd like to have the candy. Go ahead and give me some. Don't call and say, hey, I'm here. If you'd like to come by and have a meeting for presentation, give us a holler. We'd love to see you. Or even worse, I do presentations on Tuesdays at 3 if you can be here, otherwise the heck with you, which is amazing, but does happen. You got to close. You got to ask for the business. And there are two sides to this, and I got to shut up because I've gone too long. And I know I might sound a little confusing, but I want to hammer this in your head. There's 2 core elements to closing. Number 1, you got to friggin' ask them to buy. That's an ultimate. Most of us who don't know how to close don't realize it, but you never ask them to. Number 2, you got to be unwilling to not sell them. You got to be scared, you got to be starving, and you got to be hungry. And I don't mean that you put a knife to their throat and say, sign. But maybe in the back of your mind it's that level, because I need you so desperate, so hungry. Think of your favorite spy movie that you're out there and it's going to fail. Oh, Tom Cruise can't do this. Oh, and he finds a way. Because the guy that hungry is always finding the solution. The guy that hungry is a 21-year-old kid out of his element who doesn't know what the frig he's doing, that picks up the phone and calls the dad and makes him leave his job. You find a solution. Well, you got to buy it for him, Dad. He can't get it. Well, you got to sign. How's he going to do? What are you saying? Your kid's going to be a failure? He's finally trying to make something of his life. What are you telling him? You gotta find the solution. You gotta push. You gotta ask and you gotta push. There's so many levels and depth to it. It's great, but you gotta do those. If I upset, if I offended, if I got out of line, good. I don't mean disrespect. I don't mean any lack of love, but good. Get hurt, get mad, get scared, get hungry. Go ask for the business and fight for it. Because you got to be doing 10% or more. And if you're not, think about this. One deal's 20 grand. The fact you're running 6% means you left $60,000 sitting on the ground. What does that buy for your kids' college? What does that do for your debt load? How happy does that make your wife at Christmas? What does that do for your dream boat you always wanted? Close. I love you. God bless you. Close.